Syria, what should the U.S. be doing now?
You know, I saw the Secretary of State called yesterday for the creation of a Friends of Syria group, which I think is the right thing to be doing. If I take a step back, I think what the veto on Saturday dramatically undercut, I think, the effort right now to try to produce a transition in Syria. I think if you look within Syria right now, Assad is operating on a premise with at least the constituencies that still support him, where he says, you know, we can outlast this because basically we have an insurance policy, and that insurance policy is provided by the Russians. And that insurance policy ensures there won't be a kind of intervention. It ensures that there's a limit as to what can be done to us, and so stick with me, we'll be able to outlast this. I think had the Russians and the Chinese gone along with this resolution, I think the message within Syria would have been quite different.
Oh, yeah.
I also think it would have had an effect on Assad. I don't see Assad as Gaddafi. I don't see Assad as hiding out, you know, and somehow, you know, with no electricity and no water, and I don't see Assad that way. I think if Assad saw that the real balance of power was changing, and from the outside, it would have an impact further on the inside, I think that you could see a potential change there. So in answer to your question, just one other thought. The more you create a sense of inevitability that the change is coming, the more I think that you'll be able to affect what's going on the inside. So that, I think the idea of a Friends of the Syrian opposition approach is right. I think it does make sense for us to do more with the Syrian opposition. I understand up until now, the requiring the SNC to do more to demonstrate their own effectiveness was important, but I think it's also important to create a sense of inevitability that the SNC is the future, because I think that will have some impact on the inside. Squeezing the sanctions, making them more effective is important. Doing all we can to
That's
continue.
hard to do with Russia not cooperating.
Well, it's hard to
Is
do
there
on
a
the
way
issue of arms
what is
transfers.
Russia's reason? Is it some grand historical thing? Is it you know, autonomy, or is it
I think
historical relation with Syria?
I think it's several things.
And is it Lavrov or Putin?
You know, let's put it this way. I think that on Saturday, Putin was focused on what was going on in the streets of Moscow.
Correct.
I think Putin is focused on what's going to happen on March 4th. And then afterwards, he's thinking about what's the kind of government he's going to put together. His preoccupation is much more on the inside. Now, there may be a kind of anticipation of Putin is seen as wanting always internationally to demonstrate Russian independence. The only naval base they have in the Middle East is in Syria. But you would think, if you take a step back, if you're Russia and you want to preserve a position in Syria, the only way you're going to preserve a position in Syria is being on the right side of history and where this is headed. The longer you are seen as helping to prop up Assad and basically what is now a killing machine, and the way Assad treated this vote was a license, you know, to unleash. You know, if you look at I don't know how many people looked at the videos over the weekend.
I mean, of Homs?
You're looking at artillery, mortars. You're looking at anti-aircraft shells that they use to fire into buildings. You know, the fact is, the Russians have a stake right now in demonstrating that they're the ones who helped to produce the transition, not they're the ones who were an impediment to it. I think actually right now it's not just the friends of the Syrian opposition that we should be focused on, which is important. I think we should be working very closely with the Arabs right now to build up the pressure on the Russians, because I think that will leave the Russians in a position where they're feeling increasingly uncomfortable.